Next question goes to Enrique.
Social communicators and Silam, to you guys, to the youth, and Bishop Cayano, a short question and might be a short answer. Pope Francis is changing our pastoral minds. And how would you summarize Christus Vivit in one sentence? Might be long, but might be in one sentence. Is it possible?
I don't think it's possible, but I will say that Christus Vivit it's a message of hope. It's a love letter from a pastor that is bringing this sense of urgency to the young people to, one, learn to assess their own reality, the reality of their communities, to articulate that reality, and then to discern that reality and take action, having the light, having Christ at the center of the conversation.
I don't know if I can summarize in one sentence. That's a tall task, but I can give a one-sentence suggestion, and that would be to read the entire document through the lens of chapter 4. Because what Pope Francis tells us, these truths of our relationship with Christ and the nature of God, which to some of us might seem to be very simple. We've known these for years. The reality is that not everyone does know that. But what we'll see is when we read these truths that Christ loves us, he suffers with us, he died, and he saves us. And then we read the following chapters and the preceding chapters, we'll see that everything that Pope Francis has given us in this document, when read through that lens, witnesses the kerygma in, I think, a very profound way. So that's where I would start. I can't give you a summary, though.
Okay. We're running out of time, but we have time for one more question. It's going to JD.
JD again. Brenda and Brian, my question is for you. And yesterday we heard Bishop Barron give a talk about what will help young people to practice the faith, and now we're blessed because we have some young people here. And so I just wonder if you would talk to us about your experience of what is it that among your peers and among young people, what are the things that attract them to practice the faith or support them or encourage them in practicing the faith?
I would say that when we talk about young people and youth and young adults and then our peers, we are young adults, but there is a diversity of them. There are some young people that really need to encounter Christ through us, not theology, not Catholic morality, nothing, of the mind, but that they really need to encounter a risen Christ through somebody who cares about them. Because when young people are starving, when young people are concerned about the student loans, when young people are in prison, right now I'm in communications with a family of this young girl who is 18. Her family is from Venezuela, and she is in one of the detention centers in Arizona. And this young girl, Billy, is very involved in her church, or used to be very involved in Venezuela. But with these young people, in the moment, what they need is the living gospel. Not just information and the statistics, but they need the living gospel. And then we have others who have already encountered Christ, who love Christ, and they want to grow. And I think Christus Vivit, Pope Francis tells us, only two things are necessary when it comes to ministry with young people. The first one, it's outreach, and the second one is growth. And when it comes to growth, then in outreach, we talk about the kerygma first. And then on growth, we help them to grow in their faith. And then it comes all the teachings, but we cannot go to one side or the other, be way too pastoral, or then just stay in the teachings of the church. We have to practice the teachings, and that is also attractive to the young people when they see us genuinely practicing the teachings of the church.
A lot of my context, like I said in the presentation, I was confirmed just over 3 years ago. So a lot of the context that I have comes from my experience at Catholic University of America in Washington, D.C. And I'll say, I think it comes down to two things. The first, and it's not just to repeat my main point from my presentation earlier, but is accompaniment. I was blessed to participate in student ministry program that CUA has, and it's a very special program where about 23 students from sophomore to senior are chosen to minister to the campus and to the residents on campus. And what I found was that it was great that we had students that would always come. They would always go to Mass. They would always come to our events. They would always do this. But then there were those students who, are Catholic, who might go to Mass sometimes. And what I found, and what we all found as ministers, is that if we just cling to those events, if we just cling to those things, we're never going to get those people. And not that we're not going to get them, we're never going to help them to experience Christ. So I think the first is accompaniment, and that comes in all shapes and forms, that people were relational. You can find that, if you want to go theological, you can look at the nature of the Trinity, that is relational, and that if we're made in the image and likeness of God, then we too are relational. So what keeps people coming is that relationship, that witness, that they see Christ through that. And then secondarily is community that is formed in part due to that witness, that once people have seen what Christ is doing in the lives of others, they want to share that. I know all the statistics and polls and all these things tell us that young people today are so individualistic, and they refuse any sort of community and are just face to the ground, keep walking straight. And I'll say, in my experience on my campus and with my friends, that's not true. Young people are really searching and desiring community. So once we're accompanying and showing Christ to others, the community forms, and that's where we breed the parishes and the families that Archbishop Chaput is talking about, that help the church to continue to go out.
May I just make a comment? Enrique, you asked for a single sentence to summarize Christus Vivit. Allow me to offer you a picture instead. So right here, we have young people invited to the table who speak articulately with wisdom and pastoral insight, who are assuming leadership in the church. That is what Christus Vivit is all about.
And I would add to that, Bishop, that we often talk about those that are not there, right? But I can't just think about them, right? Those that are, and my experience as a Bishop of Cleveland is encountering dozens and dozens of young adults who are alive for their faith and love Christ and are searching for that sense of community. Yes, they might be smaller in number as they were before, but so was the remnant of Israel at one point, right? That the big people of God was left as a little remnant. Archbishop spoke about that early on when he went to Philadelphia. I don't know if you remember that, Archbishop, when he was my Archbishop. And he spoke about, yes, that we might be a smaller church, like a remnant, but a more intense and more intentional and holier church.
Okay. Well, thank you, Your Excellencies, and to our special guests.